OK, Nick, thank you. Well, joining me now is the man of the hour, former Attorney General Dominic Grieve. It was his amendment that has seemingly forced the concession from the Prime Minister. Also with me is his Conservative colleague and member of the Brexit-backing ERG grouping of MPs, John Penrose. Dominic Grieve, we'll start with you. What did the government promise you today to get you to vote with them on your own amendment?
Just one bit of background. There was a Lord's amendment which could have been voted on and on which the government might have been defeated. I could understand some of the government's reservations, which is why I came up with a compromise amendment of my own. Obviously, that couldn't actually be voted on today. It could only be dealt with by a discussion with government, unless the government had been prepared to accept it in its entirety. So there was bound to be a discussion, and that discussion was positive. So positive, it enabled quite a large number of my colleagues to vote to remove the Lord's amendment and substitute the government's amendment, to which, in due course, we will have to tinker around with it in the Lords, after discussion, to improve it. Right. And I have every confidence, having spoken to the Prime Minister, that we will be able to do that.
Okay. And did they give you the date, like November the 30th? That's the date. We have to have had a deal by then, or Parliament can start intervening.
The dates were not an issue.
Right.
If there was any sort of problem or area, the last one of the three amendments, which provided a mandatory instruction to government, was one that they were concerned about and wanted to discuss. All this seems to me to be the absolute normal process of compromise.
Horse trading.
And ultimately, I'm there to try to improve a piece of legislation, and inevitably, where there are differences of view, you have to negotiate and compromise. And I hope very much that that's going to happen. If it doesn't happen, then obviously this isn't the end of the matter, because ultimately it's very likely that this amendment will come back to the House of Commons.
So it goes to the Lords, they'll put it in again, and then you'll come back.
So it can be reconsidered. So this provides a sensible period of time to try to resolve an issue consensually, sensibly, and not in any way to undermine the government, or indeed to have a dig at other colleagues.
So let's just be, what you're really saying is that they better not be screwing you around with promises to take you seriously, because if they are, you'll come back. When will it be? Next week even? I mean, it could be quite soon.
It could come back on a date that the government chooses, but it's going to have to come back at some point.
Right.
But as I say, my hope is that this is all going to be resolved very sensibly in the meantime.
Yes, of course.
And I have no reason to doubt or distrust the Prime Minister in what she told us. Right. And I hope very much that we will come to a satisfactory solution.
So DexEU, we're briefing this evening, that we have not and will not agree to the House of Commons binding the government's hands in the negotiation. Now, I had slightly thought at one point this afternoon you had got that. But the Commons, you are the MPs, that you could bind their hands, but you're saying you accept that you won't bind them.
I think there can be some misunderstandings. I mean, ultimately, Parliament can bind the government, it can get rid of it, but it can't micromanage the government. So I think I take that statement as being an expression that we can't have micromanagement of the process by Parliament. Now, that's something that we can look at, but what we've been looking at is to find a structured way in which there can be a guarantee that the government can't simply dispense with Parliament because it's inconvenient for it. And in truth, if the government tries to do that, any government wouldn't survive. Right. So I think we're in danger of getting carried away into an apocalyptic vision.
You're being very nice, I think, and you also have the threat in your back pocket, and everybody can hear both sides of it, and everyone knows you don't want to emphasise the threat. John Penrose, do you agree with Dominic Grieve on what the government said to the rebels? Because there honestly seems to... I mean, I'll just read you the Sun's headline tomorrow's "May the farce be with you." PMS, that basically the PM has said completely different things to Remain MPs and Leave MPs, and it looks like she's double dealing, really.
Well, I don't think that's the case. I wasn't in the room, whereas Dominic was, but what it does seem to be is that, as Dominic was saying, we've got a period when we can get together and hack out some kind of compromise. And the thing is that we had 12 votes today. I mean, we voted for ages, and on 11 of them we delivered compromise after compromise and agreement after agreement with much bigger...
There was only one that mattered today. No, really, there was only one that any of us were interested in.
As it turned out, yes. But, you know, if you'd been having this conversation 2 days ago, we'd have been talking about the customs union, and there was an agreement on that.
No, but we've got a customs union one in July, haven't we? Well, so that's not gone away.
But my point is that we've got to the point where we've managed to forge agreements on all these other things. We've got one more to go. It's not done yet. Dominic is absolutely right, but it can be done, and with a bit of goodwill on all sides, it should be done.
I'll tell you what really seems clear is that the government's vision of Brexit cannot happen. Now, just tell me how it can, that we're out of the ECJ's jurisdiction, out of the customs union, and out of the single market. Because just tell me how that is going to paint me a scenario by which that happens with a deal put to Parliament.
Well, at the moment, all we've got is the current bill in front of us. There are other bills that are going to be coming forward in due course about some of these things. But at the moment, the current bill says we are leaving on the 29th of March next year, and we have got agreement on some words around things like the customs union, which would involve us being out.
Look, so the EU and the people in this room, John Penrose, the EU are not going to give you the government's Brexit. So the choice will be, and it will face Dominic Grieve and Parliament in some form in November, the choice will be hard Brexit, no transition, we just fall off a cliff, or we have a soft Brexit that sorts out Northern Ireland, and that's going to be the choice. That's the only way it can go now, isn't it?
I disagree. I mean, I think it would be wrong to try and prejudge the results of the negotiations for a start. I mean, it's always very easy to assume that the other side are going to be beastly to you, but they have skin in the game too. They have an upside here which they don't want to give away, which we can help them with. So I can't see why it isn't possible to get an agreement, but it won't be easy, and there will be compromise between us and them. The important thing is for us not to spend all our time negotiating between Brits and to trick to the point where we've got a position where we can then take to Brussels and negotiate with Brussels.
Gentlemen, thank you both very much.
Thank you.